Let's go to senior Washington editor for NBC News Digital, Ginger Gibson. Ginger, great to see you. We also have confirmed here at NBC News, as you know so well, the grand jury is expected to also hear from former Michael Cohen attorney Robert Costello, who may attempt to undermine the credibility of Cohen in this grand jury process and in the indictment and what the Manhattan DA is doing. Talk about what we're learning just within the last 3 hours. The rebuttal witness is what Cohen's just telling us. And then Robert Costello also added into the discussion tomorrow.
That's right. This case is very live in front of the grand jury. And as you said, it's evolving even here on a Sunday. The New York Times reported first that Bob Costello, an attorney who had worked with Michael Cohen, was going to be brought before the grand jury on Monday. We have confirmed that he will be there. And as Cohen said himself, he will be available to be a witness. That means that they think that he could contradict or sow some doubt in the minds of the grand jury. Now, it's important to remember the grand jury doesn't have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. So there can be doubt in the mind of the grand jury, and they still vote to indict someone. But we also know that these cases can be very difficult. And what we're seeing is the likelihood that the prosecutor in Manhattan doesn't want to leave any holes in the minds of the jurors whenever he finally does ask them to take that vote.
Let's go to where you're at there in the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and there's so much we can talk about, but let's go directly to Kevin McCarthy, the Republican Speaker of the House, who just tweeted again, reaffirming that they are going to investigate. He is going to investigate from his side as Speaker of the House officially into what the Manhattan DA is doing with this case of hush money. What can he do? Are we expecting potentially, is this even in the storyline, that he may ask, that he may demand, he may subpoena the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, to come on down because they're going to investigate what he's doing on a state level?
There's only so much that can be done, but it's been clear if you've been reading Trump's Truth Social or following Kevin McCarthy or some of Trump's other allies in Congress that they feel like they need to say they're doing something. Could they subpoena Alvin Bragg? Absolutely. Would it be unprecedented to ask a prosecutor to talk about a case that's still ongoing? Absolutely. We would not have seen this before. This would be very unique circumstances. I suspect they're making a lot of noise. They're trying to show their base that they're with Trump. They're trying to prove that they could do the only thing they can do, which is investigate, but it would be a very difficult investigation and one that would have trouble turning up anything more than the evidence that Bragg has presented to a grand jury at this point, which, because of the way grand juries work, probably wouldn't be too favorable to Donald Trump.
Yeah, and as you know so well, the Trump Republicans are certainly whispering into his, whisper is the wrong word, they are yelling into Kevin McCarthy's ear, and so he is tweeting what they are saying. Let's turn to what the impact of a potential indictment may have on the 2024 race, because that is also part of what we're seeing on the road, what you've been reporting on. Trump and his closest supporters definitely seem to think any action by the Manhattan DA, it helps him either way, and that's potentially why he, again, which he does very well, is trying to lead the narrative on this. Again, what they're saying, he wins either way on that, too. What are you seeing?
You know, we saw this call from Donald Trump on Saturday for his supporters to take to the streets and protest. And that's really an effort to get them riled up, to get them excited. Now, look, I don't think most people think, including those in Trump's camp, that him being indicted is going to make anybody sitting at home thinking, I wasn't going to vote for Donald Trump, that now they're going to vote for Donald Trump. It's not going to win him any of those folks. But what it could do is people who were likely to vote for Donald Trump, it might harden them or make them less likely to be won over by someone like Mike Pence or Nikki Haley. And that's what Trump's folks think could happen, a sort of hardening of his base and enthusiasm. People who think maybe there's no hope, they start to get excited because Trump likes to be the victim. And this is a place where he can say that.
NBC's Ginger Gibson. Thank you, Ginger.